For those that don't know me, I am Dayron Bowers. I'm a professor here at the School of Business and Technology. You'll find me teaching anything from entrepreneurship, small business management, business plan writing, human resource management, work behavior, international business management, everything business management related, on top of business communications. So it's good to see a few faces that I haven't seen in a while. Welcome back. It's one of those things that's funny. I'm supposed to be representing the National Black MBA Association, but of course, by my affiliation with the university, it's just natural that, I'm home, all right? So you guys that aren't familiar with me are going to get an inside look at what it looks like to be in one of our classes here at Huston-Tillotson University, and slightly what it looks like to be in one of my classes without all the work. So, again, I'm Professor Dayron Bowers, or Dayron Bowers in this capacity. I'm here on behalf of the Austin Chapter National Black MBA Association. We are a professional organization that represents MBAs and entrepreneurs. And no, you do not have to be Black to be a part of the National Black MBA Association. But I would say you have to be comfortable being around Black people. So we've been here in the Austin area for since 2006. We represent about 200 individuals. My favorite thing about the National Black MBA Association is the access to the network and the numerous leadership development opportunities, job opportunities, and I'll say it again, the networking opportunities. Each year, the National Black MBA Association will host a conference. Ironically, this year, that conference is in Houston, Texas. For my students, especially my MBA students, you guys need to make sure that you are there because it's over like 250 of the top companies there looking to hire top talent and diverse talent. All right. But that's not why you're here. You're here to learn about starting up a business. So for my past students, you'll hear some information you heard before. So correct me if I'm wrong or please add in. All right. I want to start off just with the thought process or just with the comparison of entrepreneurism versus small business ownership. All right. Entrepreneurism is the hot ticket title for business ownership, but entrepreneurship and small business ownership are very much so separate and not the same. All right. So when you think about entrepreneurship, the term entrepreneur is often used in a broad sense to include most small business owners. Entrepreneurship involves taking risks either to create a new business or to greatly change the scope and direction of an existing. Entrepreneurs typically are innovators who start companies to pursue their ideas for new products or services. All right. So when you think entrepreneurship, think disruption. When you think entrepreneurship, think a company like Uber. Uber disrupted the market against the taxi market. Right. Uber's main intention was to go after taxis and the city commuter. People in cities had issues catching taxis. So they had this company, this idea to say, let's create this platform where individuals sign up, they put their car or register their cars to get rides, and we connect them with people looking to essentially catch a ride. So when you think about a company like this, and this is that the difference between entrepreneurism and even as we get into this whole tech innovation and these tech opportunities, when you look at a company like Uber, all they do is they serve as a connection. The company Uber makes money because they charge you as a user to catch a ride, and they charge the business or the person that wants to give a ride, they charge them for the connection and getting access to people like you over their network. Ironically, a company like Uber, they're actually not profitable. Uber's not profitable. Why they're not profitable is because of their overhead. So it's very interesting as we look at companies like Uber, the biggest constriction to making profit is the people that drive the cars. It's really interesting when you think about companies like NVIDIA. We talk about NVIDIA a lot. These companies, NVIDIA is really fueling entrepreneurship in the tech industry. NVIDIA is focused on self-driving cars, humanoid robots, and also innovation of manufacturing. So we've been seeing this little Waymo car out here, Waymo, which is owned by Google, Alphabet. We've been seeing it out here for a year and a half now. What is really going to change Uber's business is when they get rid of their biggest expense, and it's the contracted driver. So when you think about business and entrepreneurship, understand that that's different. As far as you can be the platform, Uber, you can invest in a platform like Uber, or you can be the contractor and you can drive for a company like Uber. A contractor for Uber would be more considered a small business owner. Entrepreneurs, disruptors. It's also interesting, these entrepreneurial ventures, they're not profitable. Talking about these self-driving cars and tech and stuff like that, other non-profit or companies that aren't profitable. Lucid, you've seen these cars, the EV cars. Lucid, I believe, loses $250,000 per car they make. Rivian loses $30,000 per car they make. The only profitable company that makes EVs is Tesla. So when you think about entrepreneurship, think about innovation, disruption. When you think about tech, think about how can I connect one system to the next system and earn a profit that continues to grow. Entrepreneurs are visionaries who spot trends. A lot of times when we think about business ownership, especially from that, we tend to have a worker's mentality. We start up businesses that are based off of what we can do with our hands or what we can produce with our mind. This becomes one of the biggest challenges from business ownership, especially in the Black and brown community. For my landscapers, painters, barbershops, salons, they're very low growth model style businesses. I can be a barber. I don't have to hire anybody to work for me. But in order for me to make money as a barber, I got to cut heads. I'm then only restricted to the amount of time that I can allocate to cutting heads. I may make $20, $50 per person that I cut a head for, but I'm only restricted to the 8 hours that I work or 12 hours that I work. And the worst thing about owning a barbershop, especially if you are the barber that owns the barbershop, if you're sick, you don't get paid. If you want to take vacation, when do you think a barber or a stylist, when do you think our busiest times typically are? Weekends, holidays. So when I want to go out, if I leave my business, I'm not making money. See, again, when we talk about small business ownership, especially in the Black and brown community, we tend to start businesses that don't have much of a growth possibility. So why would I as a bank or why would I as an investor give you access to capital? Without access to capital, your business cannot grow. And if your only stream or access to capital for a business is your customer or your clientele base, and it's only based off of the revenue that you bring in, your business isn't built to last. So again, entrepreneurs are market disruptors. Whereas small business owners or managers or people with technical experience who started a business or bought an existing business and made a conscious decision to stay small. Now, small business ownership, especially in the Black and brown community, I believe is the fix to all of our problems, all of our issues. But the small businesses that we start need to be small businesses that employ people, that hire people. It can't be small businesses that just take care of me and my household. A barbershop can't be passed down to my children. If I pass down a barbershop or a salon to my children, that means my children have to be barbers or stylists. My children probably don't want to be a barber or stylist, no matter how much I may love it. But what's interesting about this definition of small business owners are the people. They're individuals with a technical expertise, or they bought an existing business. Now, the biggest opportunity to get into business from an academic standpoint, and I have an MBA, but you don't have to have an MBA to do this at all. But I think buying businesses is the greatest opportunity right now. You have a lot of baby boomers that are essentially, they had very small businesses that they're tired of working on their own. They kept it small. Their children don't want it. Their children aren't able to even understand, how do I take over this business without having to work the business? And if I don't have access to capital, it's not worth it. And I'll do you one better. I saw mom and dad struggle to pay bills, and I saw mom and dad struggle to manage and have to have nightmares when clients were down. And, things always worked out and we had a great life, but I'd rather go to school, get me this degree, and then pay me my 60 to 70K, and let's call it a day. So these businesses are on the market, they're out there with nobody to assume responsibility. The second part, individuals with technical experience. So my college students, think about what I think your best opportunity, especially in this environment, and we'll get to this a few slides in, but these companies that you have access to, especially as students here at Huston-Tillotson University, they'll pay you way more than what your own business will pay you. They'll pay you way more. In all actuality, you don't want to take money out of your business. When you take money out of your business, you're restricting your business's growth. Businesses that can't grow or businesses that are restricted from growth don't get invested in, and it's really hard to get them access to capital. Again, to grow your business, you need access to capital. So what we'll talk about is how expensive it is to start a business, run a business. We'll talk about how you plan a business, think long-term strategy. We'll get into thinking like an investor. If I have time, we'll talk about registering your business, the difference between a sole proprietorship and LLC, and the various types of incorporation. And then I'll close with talking about how to get access to business financing. What I'll tell you is you don't need money to start a business. There are many ways to get access to capital to start a business, and it's OPM. Who knows what OPM is? Other people's money. But what I tell you is other people won't give you money if you don't got a plan. You could have the best idea in the world, but if you don't have a plan, why am I going to give you money? If you don't have a plan, how do I know if your idea was actually successful or not? How do I know if it was profitable at the highest value? So when you think about a business, bills. One of the areas of opportunity for an entrepreneur is to figure out, how do you support small mom and pop shop businesses, especially restaurants. Can you imagine opening up a restaurant today? You got to pay for the food. You got to pay for the staff. You got to pay for the electric utilities. I mean, we go into a restaurant today, we hope they got Wi-Fi because we need access to our cell phone. And if the service in there isn't good, like I do prefer and appreciate having access to free Wi-Fi. If it's a bar, they got to pay for the liquor. And the crazy thing is, the average restaurant, what's the price point for the restaurant you guys go to typically? How much do you pay for a meal by yourself? $13. So can you imagine having a location in Cedar Park? I live in Cedar Park. Can you imagine having a location where you rent out a facility in Cedar Park and the rent costs $6,000 to $8,000 a month to be next to Starbucks? And your average ticket per individual is between $13 and $25. What I find interesting about these restaurants, I come in, well, first I had to find the restaurant. So that restaurant had to be on Google. That restaurant had to have a website. That website, it couldn't just be a Wix website. I mean, we can start out as a Wix website, but eventually we're going to have to pay for management. We're going to update the website. It's one price to create the website. It's another price to manage the website. And if you're like me, I have a problem with Alicia. Sorry. Oh, it's been a while. Come on, it's been a while. But I caught myself. I got it. I have a problem. I want to learn everything. I'm an academic. I like to learn. I like to know how to do. So instead of me paying somebody to do a Wix website, I went to college. I paid I paid a lot of money for education. I might as well just do this damn website myself. I might as well manage the updates myself. But what you'll find is you can't work on your business and also work in your business. You don't want to be the chief of everything because the chief of everything isn't profitable and the chief of everything probably can't get access to capital. The chief of everything is hustling. Because the chief of everything, one day I got to sell. The next day I got to market. The next day after that, I got to order the product. The next day after that, I got to take these T-shirts that I got and I got to put them in a packaging. Like it costs money. And going back to the restaurant, you think I walk into the restaurant, I order my food, they had to have the menu cracked it up. You know, some bougie people like a different menu every quarter. I order my food. I eat my food. Don't let something be wrong with my food because then I'm thinking that food you just thought you were going to charge $13 to $25 better be free. So I don't even pay for that food until after I've eaten it. But the person that owns and runs the restaurant has to pay for the equipment, production, insurance. We didn't talk about insurance fees, management fees. You know, when you think about even employees, you know, my students always think when I get them for the entry-level classes that they're going to graduate and they're going to make about humbly $70,000 to $85,000. Like that's respectable. They got a college degree. So can you imagine as a restaurant owner, you want the brightest and best and they expect to make $75K. And that's just being modest because you can't live in Austin if you're making $20 an hour. But if you're paying way more than $20 an hour for your employees, the price of your product has to go up. It's the interesting thing about this whole Donald Trump stuff and what's going on right now. And I won't get into it. I really think it's going to be a great thing. Donald Trump said, buy American. Donald Trump said, make America great again. So if you own a business in America and you produce the products in America, your prices for the products that are basically transported or imported in are going to be cheaper. So instead of buying these products, which 34% of the products that are exported from around the world that are coming, that are bought on the global import-export market, 34% comes from the United States of America. Donald Trump said, American money. We're going to talk this tariffs. Here you go, you got to pay more. But in the meantime, until you're ready to negotiate with us, hey, everybody in America, take that 34% and buy local. Business opportunity, business entrepreneurship opportunity, small business ownership opportunity, because there's manufacturing opportunities. You have these new companies that are putting $20 to $50 billion into the U.S. economy to manufacture tech products, chips, and so forth. Gets into another conversation, but again, we can't compete if we do not have access to the funding. The quote is, if you want to hide something from a black man, you put it in a book. And I don't think it's just a black man anymore. You want to hide something from a minority person that feels disadvantaged, put it in a book. There is an article on Harvard Business Review that was published in 1987 that talks about how do you get your manufacturing warehouse funded without having one product. It runs through top to bottom, talking about how basically you create the projected accounting statements or projected finance statements, and then you go through the income statement, the balance sheet, and you get to the statement of cash flows. But because you haven't made any sales, there's going to be a number in the statement of cash flows that says how much it costs to operate that business. So a piece of business ownership, whether it's entrepreneurship or small business ownership, you have to have good credit, because it costs money to start a business. It costs money to run a business. But it's very interesting that these businesses that Uber, not profitable. How does Lucid lose $250,000 per car? I still can't fathom it. But they have buku bucks being injected into the business, all because the investors know the future cash valuation and earnings are what I'm looking for. So I pump my money here because of what it will be worth later down the road. Like we're talking about companies like NVIDIA. NVIDIA trades on 32 times its profit. 32 times its profit, that's how much it trades on in the stock market. So when we talk about business, whether entrepreneurship or small business ownership, what's most important and what's most valuable is your access to capital. When you're starting a business, play the long game. You're running a marathon, this isn't a sprint. You know, don't think about just how can I start this business and launch it tomorrow and become profitable tomorrow. It's not a get-rich-quick scheme when you start up a business or manage a business or run a business. Everything that you do with business ownership is very strategic. You want to build a business, not a job. If I'm my number one employee, I'm going to take my tail to Dell and put an application in and collect this $60,000 selling Dell computers, while Dell teaches me how to be an engineer, while Dell teaches me how to be a project manager, while Dell pays for me to learn. And the more I get these skill sets, the more money I make. What I love about society today is that, you know, you're finding that individuals, instead of going into companies and working for 30 years at one company, individuals are having 3 or 4 careers. You do one thing for 10 years, you become an expert at it, you go into the next thing for 10 years, then you retire and you're like, it's not about me anymore, my family's okay, it's time to give back. Like my man Roger Davis here. You guys do not know Roger Davis. I mean, I know you're a legend on the HT's campus, but you give back later, but you know, keep on doing more. And the retirement dream of I'm going to go to a beach and be on the beach for the rest of my life, that sounds cool until you don't have the people you value around you. So like, what does it truly mean to have a retirement? And if you're like me, I don't believe retirement is not working. but I do want to be able to retire and not worry about money. In the traditional employee sense, says that I have to trade my time to make money. But a business says I have to take this money and borrow this money, and then I leverage that debt to make money. Before we start a business, let's have a 10-year outlook. What's my first 2 years look like? You need money to start the business. When can I get the website done? How much money am I going to need for the website? What are the starting products that I need? Let me get as much information. The government, I believe, and I don't know, I got to check to see current tax codes, but as of 3 years ago, the government will let you write off up to $150,000 for business startup expenses. But I believe it was $50,000 per year for up to 3 years. So if you guys remember, and some of you probably don't, but there was this whole thing around COVID timeframe where the Democratic legislation or side of the government wanted to hire more tax people because they wanted to really attack after these ghost businesses. You have individuals that were making $250,000 a year. They were starting up an LLC. They were saying they put $150,000 into the startup of those LLCs. They received a $50,000 a year tax write-off, lowering their taxable income, giving them access to more capital so they can make wiser financial decisions. President Donald Trump said he paid a lower tax bracket than his own admin assistant, and he said it was because he was smarter than everybody else. I don't think it's because he's smarter than everybody else, but you got to follow tax law. And even when we talk about this business ownership, business opportunity, we need to understand that the number one consumer in the United States of America, the U.S. government. Why is that important? Because every time, I don't care if it's a Democrat in office, I don't care if it's Republican in office, as a business owner, I know where to put my money and I know where to look for government contracting because the U.S. government cannot provide its own services. They must contract services out. They give those contracted services to typically a mixture of business owners, U.S. and international as well. So I really want to follow where government policy is because it tells me where government's spending their money. And where government's spending their money, me as a business owner and or entrepreneur, whatever you want to consider yourself, I know where to pivot my business. If it's the Republican demographic or if it's a Republican-led Congress or House, what it really means is that we're building new businesses, we're building a new economy, we're building new roads, we're doing new construction. If it's a Democrat-led, rebuild. Build back America again. No matter what, it's construction. The wealth of a nation is determined on how much it builds, how much it produces, your GDP. So when we think about this business thing, it's not just the landscaping company. It's not just the daycare. It could be a financial services company. It could be an intermediary. It could be an import-export company for my international students that have access to different products. And now you have a location here where you know where a majority of your culture is. You just have to basically take the product that your people want and give it to them in a way where you can make a profit. If you fail to plan, you're planning to fail. You want to build a business that's investable. Again, I don't give, everybody puts your investment cap on. Why would you give any business or any individual money if they're not going to be able to pay you back that money? Especially if you're not going to be able to make money off the money. Like, Devin, if I sit here and I tell you, look, I got an opportunity, I'm going to get $1,000 worth of water, and then I'm going to sell it outside the classrooms for $1 a pop. Can you let me loan $1,000? Okay. If I give you $200 back, can you loan that $1,000 to me? I can't even get money from my own student without having to give him money back. Right? So who's giving money unless it's your family and your friends? And most of us, you're not giving money to your family and friends. I live by the principle, if I want it back or need it back, I don't got it to loan to my cousin, my friend, my sister, my brother, because I don't want to sit here and mess up the family function because I'm like, damn, where's my $100 at? I saw you on Instagram. The goal is to pour gas on the fire. One of the best examples that I saw was there were two gentlemen that went to Wharton School of Business. They basically had this note that they locked together, and they would give ideas back and forth. All right? So the concept was, we know that the average minority doesn't have 6 months worth of their salary saved up. So what we're looking to do is we're looking to create this app that will encourage minorities to save money. And we're going to use the Venmo business strategy. You guys know Venmo. You send money and it gives them a little, a message, and people put funny things on there, or emojis, or whatever you want. So what would happen is that when I get on and, Kudus is sitting here and I see Kudus put money or save money and he got 5 coins, and, then I see, Samuel over there, he traded some, put some saved money, he got 10 coins. So it encourages me to save because I need them to see I'm saving money too. Idea was great. They put $1,000 up together. They got the bare bones of the app built. Just the app, and what it did was it made transfers and it gave coins. That's it. Their goal then was to go out and pitch to everybody they saw and talk about the problem. Look, in the Black and brown community, we typically don't have more than $5,000 saved up. The unfortunate thing about that in today's society is that it takes, unfortunately, 6 to 18 months to get a job, especially if you don't have the right connections or network. So if you only have $5,000 saved up, I'm sure the average apartment in Austin is like, $2,000, $1,900 per month in the city of Austin. So $5,000 ain't going to last too far, especially if you start talking about this car insurance. So their goal was to go out and pitch, and they wanted to get 5,000 emails. Every quarter, as they got emails, they would send out a message to the people that downloaded the app and gave them their email, and they said, hey, what updates do you want on this app? And people give feedback, and they would look at the list every quarter, and then they would look at the small and low-hanging fruit. Anything that was under $500 that they could do or have somebody do it for them, they would do it. But they built up this list, and their goal was 50,000 downloads, 50,000 emails. They didn't ask for money or pitch the business idea or concept until they got 50,000 emails. But the pitch changed because they came in, they talked about the problem. Minorities don't have 6 months of savings or financial backing. Look at the economy right now. Look at everything going on with Trump, these tariffs. The world's about to fall. Prices are going to go up. Eggs are going to be more expensive than $5,000 in your eggs, milk, and look, I have 50,000 people that are looking to have this app that basically encourages minorities to save X amount of dollars per month. And then these 50,000 people need these things. And I need your money not to create a website. I need your money not to do a marketing campaign, because as soon as I spend $50,000 on an Instagram reel, I'm going to get all these customers. No, I need your money so that I can provide what 50,000 people want. And then this is the gas to the fire I've already started. Investors don't want to invest in something that's not sparked, that's not lit. They don't want to be your match. They don't want to be your lighter. They want to be I want to make my money back. My man said $1,000 for 1,000 just because he knew if I got $1,000 worth of water, I'm paying $5 per case and I'm charging $1 each. Smart businessman, but this is what things work. So if you don't have money, what I'm going to tell you is invest your time. What is your business plan? See, for my business students, you're learning this. How do you create a business plan? How do you research the market? How do you even interpret what's going on in the market? How do we, like, this is my favorite time. You guys know, like, as soon as Trump got on, I was just happy because he's making the global world and the business, like, it's a business thing. There's all these trigger reactions for the business. But the number one thing that the US government and any government should be focused on is providing its people jobs. The value of small businesses and creating small businesses that actually employ people is you create jobs. 99% of all small, or 99% of the labor in the US market actually comes from small owned businesses. When you look at the problems in the Black and brown community, look at this area, look at the east side of Austin. Most of y'all go to school here, y'all don't spend money here. So if there are businesses here, you don't work at them. If there are businesses here, you don't spend money at them. And then as soon as you get this education, what do? The businesses don't thrive. The businesses don't survive. But they're mom and pop shop restaurants, they're food trucks, they're landscaping companies, they're construction. You don't want to stay here because you can't work here and afford an apartment across the street on the other side of the bridge. So if you don't have the money to start up your business, what I would tell you is invest your time, develop a business plan, learn the skill set. Remember, the definition of a small business owner was somebody with the technical expertise. I'd say for my college student, learn a skill set that pays you a lot of money. I'll call it the FU money. This is my FU goal. I want to get it by the time I'm 10 years to 12 years in. And then I can leave corporate America when I want to, not because they laid off my job, because AI is taking over things. And, Elon and Amazon, they're doing these humanoid robots that cost $30,000 for a damn humanoid robot. Can you believe it? And they do most of the minor tasks that you guys do. Great. If you don't have the time, invest your money. Again, for my college students, it's more beneficial for you to learn a job, learn a high earning skill set, save up your money, invest your money, and then basically set up a situation where when you leave, I don't got to ask anybody for $1 because I'm my own investor. I don't got to ask anybody for $1 because my credit is good. Even one better, I don't got to ask anyone for $1 because my friends in my network, they'll give me $10,000 just because they know that I'm worth it. Not what you know or who you know, but ultimately who knows you. Registering your business, and I'll do this really quick. So you have 3 tiles of business, and I'm sorry, I'm just getting to this now, but I promise you it won't take me long. When you look at what it means to register your business, it's not just because you have an LLC doesn't make you a business owner. If the first step for you to start up your business is creating an LLC, you're wrong. The only reason you have an LLC is so you can tell the United States government, how do I tax you? You have a social security number. A business has an EIN number. When we look at these different types, I don't have to have an LLC to start up a business. Anybody here, whatever you do that's not under an LLC, that's not under a corporation, it's called a sole proprietorship. I can have a kitchen outside of my home and I can make $50,000 a year legally in Austin. It's a sole proprietorship. A sole proprietorship, you go to a financial institution, you open up your bank account and you run your business, which basically pays your bills. That's a sole proprietorship. When you file taxes, you tell the government, here's my social security number, here's how much money I made, and I made $50,000, so then I owe you 21%, 17%, whatever it is. Yes, I owe you money because I make money in America. The corporation, the LLC, is really protection. It's a protection of separating you from your business. But again, it really comes down to how does the government tax you? The hot ticket name has been S Corp or B Corp. The difference between an S Corp and an LLC is how you claim and file taxes. An S Corp is a protected incorporation. It just says that I claim profits as a sole proprietor. So that means if I make $150,000 a year for my business and I'm an S Corp, I tell the government that I made $150,000, tax me as a sole proprietor. If I'm an LLC and I made $150,000 a year, it goes through my income statement, it goes through my balance sheet, and then very bottom of my balance sheet, there's the statement of retained earnings, I believe, and stockholders' equity. That's where the business really made money. And the decision of what the business does at that time, if people take out money, that means somebody made profit. If somebody made profit, you got to pay taxes. Or to avoid taxes, businesses can pay a dividend, but it's not a write-off. Or they can reinvest the money into the business, grow business, and they get access to more debt. But again, this LLC stuff and corporation and registration, and there's also laws on how you manage and operate your business. But this just comes down to how do you pay taxes? So if the first step you did was pay $400 to go to legal field to register your business, if your business ain't making no money, what you got an LLC for? So closing, what I would tell you is, again, it's important to have access to capital, and not only having access to capital, it's important that you have access to and relationships with financial institutions. All right. So when you think about starting up a business, what I would suggest you do is that you open up and first you do your business plan. When your business plan is done, you open up a business checking account. Now, I'm a fan of leveraging debt. I would say take $5,000, put $2,500 into a secured credit card, and $25,000 or $2,500 of capital, cash. You make your expenses off your credit card, and then your cash flow stays in there, and it never drops more than $2,500. Anytime I go below $2,500, my business ain't operating right. I'm getting 200 seeds for that or leads for that. Again, when you open up a business checking account, if you have an LLC, the business checking account is opened up in the EIN. If you're a sole proprietor, the business checking account is opened up as a DBA. Understand that as a sole proprietor, I can't will down the business to you if it's run through my personal checking, because when I die, my personal checking account goes with me. But a business that has an EIN, there's a board or there's people that are in power of that business and the business ideology, the business operation, business expenses, and so forth. Businesses, EINs last forever. You can pass down, you can will down the business, you can give people power, authority, the whole nine. You can't do that if my business is run through my own account. But again, if you're still in the planning stages, it's most important that you develop a relationship with your financial institution. So I would definitely open up a business account. Let's do it as a DBA account, which is a doing business as account. This could be my planning account. My DBA account says that when I hit $50,000, that's when I'm ready to start my business. But until then, my goal is to write my business plan, research my market, understand my opportunities, understand what seasonalities I have on my business, and then by the time I'm ready, look, I got my plan. I don't need 50,000. All I need is a well-vetted plan and some good friends that are willing to invest in me and my idea. So now I can sit here and say, hey, look, I got $1,000, but I'm looking for 50 people to match $1,000. You give me $1,000, I'll pay you 5% per year on that $1,000. Why is that good? I don't got time, so I can't wait for you to answer. A checking account is going to give you 2% on your money when you have it sitting in a checking account. A savings account is going to give you like freaking 0.0025%. But if I invest my money in somewhere that can promise me and guarantee me a 5% or 10% or a 20% return, so I can do deals to get access to money. Again, that OPM, other people's money. You want to develop relationships with multiple financial institutions. Just like you have a credit score, a business has a credit score. So you want to be super intentional on establishing relationships, but building your business credit. Now, when you get into this business credit game, this is what they're talking about on the internet, about you need trade lines and, apply for this credit card, get $50,000 for your business. JP Chase Morgan is giving $150,000 out to people, and you don't have to prove your business credit or history. You're going to do it $150,000. No, you want to buy it. So Bank of America, for example, uses a small business financial exchange. So if you have a Bank of America account and a business account, they're tracking the cash flow of the business on the small business financial exchange. A financial institution will only loan a business money if it has 5 to 7 years of history. That 5 to 7 years, criteria 1. Criteria 2 is you must, they'll loan you up to 50% of your cash flow for the year, and then a percentage of skin in the game. So like 10 to 50%, but it also depends on the financial institution and their risk tolerance. There are thousands of financial institutions, small, credit union, regional, the larger, your JP Morgans, Wells Fargo's. There are a lot of banks, and they make money off of doing what? What do banks make money off of? Lending money. But they need to lend money to creditworthy consumers, creditworthy businesses. Again, it's not that banks don't want to give money to Black and brown individuals. Black and brown individuals don't have a checking account for their business. That checking account for 5 to 7 years. What's the worst thing about a checking account, Cameron? If you didn't even start your business, what do you got to do every month? Especially if you don't have enough deposits or transactions in that account. You got to pay for the checking account. So I got to pay for a checking account for 5 to 7 years. I got to have cash flow so that you use me, have history before you can even think about giving me access to capital. Because if you don't have those things, guess what? You got to guarantor it. Dun & Bradstreet is another one. You have a Paydex, so that's a Paydex score. Dun & Bradstreet is they monitor like the trades accounts, the 0 net 30 accounts. So like if you go to like the Home Depots, you can get an account that's like 0 net 30, where if you buy something and then you come in before 30 days to pay it off, you get a discount. So again, when we think about ways to make money and ways to make money through a business, I don't care what your business is, it's your operation. How is it profitable? Who fails to plan is planning to fail. How do you get money for your business? Again, financing from your family and friends. But if you don't have a plan, why are they going to give you money? Another one that's great is the SBA 7A program. I don't know if it's getting messed up right now with everything with diversity, equity, and inclusion, but the 7A program and the 8A program are funding and financing options for minority-owned businesses. The 7A program, you can get access to $500,000 to start up your business. The 7A program, you can get access to up to $500,000. The 8A program is the gold standard. It's a disadvantaged minority business. You are a preferential contractor for the government in the 8A program, but you just have to prove that you are a disadvantaged individual. Now, the government, I don't care if you sell shoes. The military needs somebody to buy shoes from. I don't care if you clean. The government buildings need to be clean. I don't care if, there are so many different opportunities that you can work and contract with the government. So another idea and way to have your own business, start your own business, is contracting with the government. Business credit, I gave you guys the structure on using business credit. I'm not a fan of getting credit that's not leveraged. So I would take cash and put that cash and secure it, and then use that as my own credit that I get access to for my business. Your business is either doing one of two things: it's growing or dying. And if you don't have access to credit, cash, or cash flow, you're screwed. A lot of businesses right now, why they are screwed, is because it's the bigger businesses that basically are leveraging a lot of their capital access off of their real estate or their stock portfolio. The stock market, bloodbath, what goes down must come up. So don't get mad if this is the buying opportunity. Just throw that in there. But now financial institutions are saying, hey, your portfolio is not worth as much as you said it is. We need an asset or you're going to lose access to this credit. Merchant lenders, those are the trade lines, So you want to have a mixture in a portfolio and be super intentional when you are managing and operating and growing and developing your business. You get to a certain point where your financial decisions become counterintuitive. If I made $250,000, I'm profitable $250,000. In November, I'm buying a brand new car for $150,000 because I'm only going to get taxed on $100,000. I'm not going to get taxed on $250,000. You get taxed for every dollar you don't move. Access to capital is key to business growth and development. Ask yourself, is this an investment or am I adding unnecessary debt? All right, so what are you doing with your dollar? What I find with a lot of business or people that want to start up a business, you sit here and you're like, oh, I got this great idea. I'm going to start a website and an Instagram account. Is that website and Instagram account going to bring you money? Is it worth your investment? And if you don't know the answer to that, you need to spend more time researching what is. I don't care what your business is. The worst analogy I have is from my mentor, Dr. George Fraser. He said that if you can find people to join a cult that requires them to kill themselves, you can start up a business. That's business. It's what's the need, and do I believe in it? Do I desire it so much that I'm willing to give my life to it? You buy Coca-Cola. Coca-Cola in the United States has high fructose corn syrup, but everywhere else they sell it, it has cane sugar. Look, I'll prove that statement. If you want more food, it probably ain't good food. It got something in there that causes you to want more. But you still buy it. The cost of eggs are going up. You go to McDonald's because it's cheaper, but we don't know what McDonald's really is. Ask yourself, are these revenue-generating expenses or non-revenue-generating expenses? So when it comes down to the business, I don't really care what the business is. I care about what are you doing with the money and how are you taking that business or that access to capital to ultimately make more capital. When we talk about starting up a business, yes, you can have a landscaping company, but let's not talk about one landscaping company. Let's talk about 5 different market areas and how I can buy landscaping companies and merge them into one. What's your growth opportunity? How do you start? How do you capitalize? And then the most important thing is, how do you exit? You eventually see these businesses that go viral, that go profitable, the people eventually run out. I actually saw the owner of Slutty Vegan. They had so much business expense that she had to basically sell off her business and she no longer owned Slutty Vegan because she wasn't monitoring who was managing the business and the expenses that were coming out. So I don't know if Slutty Vegan is Black owned anymore or not. So we need to ask ourselves, is this, as an investment, I expect returns. Debt, it's got to be paid back. Debt, you must return. So in closing, I don't care what your business is. You need to know your numbers. You need to know your market. Your business isn't for everybody, and everybody doesn't want what your business offers. You need to know why, and you need to know what they want, why they want it, so that ultimately you can position it there. And I don't care what it is, people will buy it. It just has to be mission positioned properly. I hope you guys learned a lot.